Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Keep the Line Moving, the podcast designed to talk about leadership, life, and inspiration. I'm your host, Chris Gargano, and for episode 68, our topic is adapting and learning. That's right. How do you take to coaching? Suggestions? Are you open to listening to people that can give you advice to make you better? That's what this conversation is about, and so much more, with former Olympian Inga Stasiulionytė. She competed in the 2008 Summer Games in Beijing, China. She'll talk about how she got to that level, being recruited to go to USC, having an intervention with her teammates because her ego was getting too big, the role of coaching in her life. But now she is a coach with years of experience as a competitive Olympic athlete in business and leadership studies, working as a business analyst, building startups, and leading the first MIT Sports Entrepreneurship Boot Camp, provided Inga with a deep understanding of the challenges and needs of striving for self-realization on and off the field. You have to hear this conversation. It begins now with Inga on Keep the Line Moving. All right, Inga, this is wonderful. It's not every day you wake up and you say, hey, I'm going to talk to an Olympian today. But that is my day. I'm talking to an Olympian today. Inga, welcome. Tell us about how you became an Olympic javelin thrower. How did that happen?
Hello, first of all, and thank you so much for having me. And my Olympic journey is quite unique because I was sitting in the math class and a man with mustache knocked on the door. And he said, "Who's Inga here?" I lift my hand and he said, "You will be a javelin thrower." He heard about me from other coaches, what I had quite good scores. He knew what I was volleyball player, so he knew what I had already developed my attitude and body to in the sport for many years already. Then usually what happens, especially those times in Lithuania where coaches would recruit bodies. So they would say, okay, for what event, what kind of body would be suitable to do well in that sport. And then when he brings those kids on the track and field, then, as he said, literally, then we see their minds, if they're fit for high level sports. And that means how they tolerate pain, how they take directions, how they take feedback. So this is where already real test starts, if those talented bodies will be able to go through the journey, what needs to be happening to go to high level results. So I had those. I love competing, but also he was really, really good at instilling confidence in me. Maybe too much, because it bit me at one point where I was becoming too cocky. And in a year and a half, he coached me to become a finalist in European Championship. So he led me to learn how to compete and how to be developed individually as an individual for myself. And when I became a finalist in Europe, this is when I got recruited to study at University of Southern California. And then I met a new coach who had completely different system of coaching. So I needed to learn new system with the new coach.
And you proved to do quite well there. And you mentioned something that I've researched, that you said it yourself, you got a little cocky there. So some of your teammates put you through an intervention. How do you feel about that now, many years later, upon reflecting about, hey, you got to check the ego here. Here's what we're feeling and seeing.
My understanding what success meant to me and also how I was becoming successful had a really limited definition. And that definition was that I am this good because I am really good at following direction and because I am so focused on myself. And it was quite natural because I am doing individual event. I cannot be replaced and benched. I need to perform. I'm here because of my results. I need to produce results. So you can see how many I's were in my language. So I defined my success based on the results, and I didn't care about anybody else. My teammates were super upset with my attitude because I was bringing everybody's mood down. And when they organized intervention, I thought like, who the hell are you to tell me how to train and compete? I have here the best results. And so that was my defense mechanism to protect my ego at that time. But at the same time, when I talked to the coach right after that meeting, he said, do you have a problem with me? I said, like, I don't, but you are difficult. But I never understood truly what impact it had on others. So when I was reflecting what impact it has on others, I thought at the same time, what impact do I received from others? And then how can I influence maybe that environment where we can help each other even achieve even higher success than I imagined with my approach. So then I needed to do some transformation.
You know what, Inga? In getting to know you and hearing you today, you did the work, right? You were not being a good teammate. Your
No,
ego
not
was
at all.
getting in the way, right? And you own that, and that's wonderful. So now, forgive me for fast forwarding, but I just can't help myself. What you do now is that, Inga. You help people to understand themselves in the leadership space. You've been doing it many years. Many leaders, and I know this to be true, you know this to be true, have similar attitudes that it's about me. I'm the hard charger. I've had so much success. Look at my portfolio, look at my awards, look at my revenue generation. But they don't understand the effect they have on their teammates. So how do you do that now in your role?
I was really happy to be able to join my two passions as sports psychology, all the experience from sports in such a laboratory environment where you can see input and output. Okay, if you go with the stress level of 10, this is the result of the performance you get. If you manage that stress, completely different performance appear. So that always fascinated me, those little mind adjustment or emotional adjustment or physical adjustment, what you can make and shape completely different results. So second passion of mine was always big problems, solving them. And businesses, this is the created to solve the problems. So to merge those two schools of thought, high performance from sports and applying to business, I just love exploring those parallels constantly with leaders. And the example what I mentioned about my experience, what I had as a high performer, and this is what we call being too, maybe we can even use that word toxic, right? I was toxic to my teammates at that time when we are focusing too much on the results, too much on the personal agenda. So when leaders pressured to deliver results, but they don't also account what it means to the team in the long run, to the organization in the long run. Is it sustainable? So we talk a lot about how to push in sustainable way. So being really mindful and attentive in the team, where they're at and how to push your team correctly for those higher results, but also pull back when you see what it is a bit too much. And if with one more pressure point, it will be explosions, it will be a disconnection. Because if it is result driven, and then even though we ourselves hard to manage the situation, we create exactly the same situation for others. And to make a change from that situation, we as a leaders need to take responsibility. then we create step-by-step approach how it would look like, and it never ever gonna be dramatically shift or change right away, but to start thinking about what would be those teeny tiny steps in going to the more sustainable direction. That's already a big needle shift in the mindset, even awareness of what future would look like. Because if present is not sustainable, I don't know how it's going to be better for the future.
You said, Inga, you said that when you started being an entrepreneur, you thought you could do it on your own, but soon realized that you needed help. I can very much relate to that. I'm going to read a couple of little tiny paragraph from a recent blog you did that I just loved. Here it is. And then I'd like you to comment it because it's right down the path that we're going. Here's Inga. I had to sacrifice the Olympics to discover two major lessons that elevated my life. One, no one is perfectly prepared for anything, not even for the Olympics. Not everything needs to be perfect to do your best. Two, our thoughts enable us or stop us from reaching the incredible results of which we are capable. Comment on that, please, Inga. That's so, we could go in so many directions, but how does that hit your heart when you wrote that?
I thought, I mean, for me, that moment, the Olympics in the beginning, it was quite traumatic and painful experience. And everybody who would ask me how was Olympics, because they expected me to be so excited about it, so I would reply whatever they expected, like, yes, it was so beautiful, it was so nice, but truly, um, it was very, very painful experience for me, because in the warm-ups I did so well, froze, and then I knew I'm not gonna perform well in a stadium already before going into the stadium, because I could not get rid of that thought, but others are way much better prepared than me. And when all that experience happened, then you have all federation and fans and everybody else so disappointed in you and your performance, and you yourself so disappointed what you did not manage to conquer that thought, what completely stopped, because physically, technically, I was ready, and I could show it, like all my results in the weight room way higher than before. Throwing was in the warm-ups, so literally half an hour difference. It was in the result like such a huge difference. So nothing changed in that half an hour, only I focused on the wrong thought. And then later, when I started becoming as a coach, I did that reflection, and I needed to rewrite that story for myself, to acknowledge what even the most painful or failure moments, they show us a lot of lessons and growth, what we can learn from it, embrace it. And I'm proud of that experience, and I'm really happy about that experience, because it launched me to the profession what I am now.
Your journey, if I may, is constant learning. But you don't only learn and listen to coaches because you've talked about your current tennis career. You've accelerated and gone beyond the folks that are with you in the groups, right, that are being coached, because you said you know how to be coached. That must really help you when you coach others, because you're constantly reading the feedback you're being told to, right? You're giving feedback to these clients and they're responding in a certain way. And you're realizing, I need to listen a little bit more to this person. And here I might need to talk a little bit more because they think better when they hear certain suggestions and or questions. And when we first met and talked, remember what I said to you? You had me talking, you were listening, you were reading what I was saying really well and at a very high level. So all of this together, was that the core of the creation of the Elevate Leadership Institute? Tell us about it. I just want you to talk about it. I am so impressed, and go ahead. Otherwise I'm going to keep going.
Um, Actually, this idea what I had, I always love learning from different people, and I'm really curious about their minds, how they think, what problems they solve, and how we. And you mentioned I'm in this career already for 15 years, and even though we solve with our clients the same problems, time management, team engagement, motivation, burnout, the same problems year after year, but the solutions every single time so different based on that person or what they choose to create. I'm getting always so fascinated about that. So also, I'm really curious how other coaches approach the same subjects, and then what are the differences, and maybe what kind of my biases show up during the coaching meetings. So I gathered the best coaches what I know, and we wanted to provide these different perspectives from experts to the leaders, so they can learn not from one coach, not from two coaches, but for 4 different perspectives, and from the peers. So we're creating this kind of community. And another thing what we're developing in Elevating Leadership Institute is really understanding what is optimal approach to the situations, because high performance is not the maximum what you do, but it is how well you match the demand and how much you have capacity with the demand. It has to be equaled. So sometimes you don't have enough capacity, but how can you increase it? How you prepare that? Or maybe you can reduce the demand. So it's or the task, or how your perspective or your stress level, expectations of that. So that management. And there's so much information online about the performance, high level performance, and leadership, but we love to analyze those dichotomies. How much relax and how much stress do you have to perform at your best? So to always be aware of that scales. If you compete when it's like too much attention to your personal competitiveness, or too little wanting to be part of this journey of competition, there's always this scale what we need to keep adjusting, because if we're going too much, we do burn ourselves. If we do too little, we don't show our best in that situation. So we discuss a lot about how to keep creating for our clients, for our leaders, that optimal, that perfect, balanced, nuanced place for them in different situations, and how they lead, how they define themselves, how they define the results, and then progress towards the results. So I really love presenting what we do with our coaches, is that nuanced approach, which is the most sustainable and what truly high performance is. So this is the environment what we inviting everybody to join.
I love it. So Inga, somebody listening to this podcast, and they're a leader, they're an emerging leader or a senior leader, and they're saying, my gosh, this is really, I'm reflecting during this conversation. What is one singular piece of advice you could give somebody who doesn't have the balance you just articulated beautifully? They don't have the balance. They're trying to get, oh, I'm so competitive. I got to bring it down a little bit. I'm not making room for people, or, oh, geez, I don't have any energy. I need to bring it up. I know you can't summarize your entire coaching experience in one answer to a question, but what would you say? What is one takeaway they could work on today?
I would say in the end, if the performance, what we're addressing, entering, does it provide the joy to you and others? Pleasure in performance is very, very important. And usually, and myself too, I associated high performance with pain. And I thought I am really good at high performance because I'm really good at tolerating pain. But then my life forced me to understand pleasure more, which I thought it's so silly, it's not serious, it's not honorable as pain, study of pain. But I thought living this life without knowing a pleasure, it would be quite sad to leave. So that was my motivation to analyze more. And then the doors really opened, but actually through pleasure, even more higher performance happens, because then we becoming more open to experience, and then that in that moment we become more adaptive and to be able to explore opportunities better in those situations. And I don't know if you had the chance to watch, but just in Glasgow, there was an indoor world championship in track and field. And I was so happy to see more and more athletes before doing their event, they're smiling. They're no more yelling in the pain or rage or anger, which was so popular, especially in Lithuania, post-Soviet Union mindset, what was coming, like you have to be angry when you compete. Now athletes are smiling, they're inviting this beautiful energy where you can see that they even get elevated, and then they won like high jump. It was through this process, and women's and men's smiling, really focusing on where the energy and force has to go, elevating themselves in this perfect balance of the energy. And it's just so beautiful to watch, and you can feel that force, what they're so comfortably managing. I love that.
Inga, I love that.
Seriousness is overrated completely.
That's the wisdom right there. Seriousness is really overrated. And that doesn't mean, Inga, that we walk around being goofy or telling jokes or, like dancing, there's nothing wrong with any of that. But it's not silliness. It's just being natural and open and kind, right? In my opinion, they're underrated attributes of great leadership. One of Steve Kerr's, I bring this guy up all the time because I respect the heck out of him. He's the head coach of the Golden State Warriors in the NBA. And one of his 4 values is joy. Joy. The guy's won 9 NBA titles, and he operates from a perspective of joy, to your exact point.
It's easier to go and look like, okay, seriousness, this is what results brought, but as a humans we operate quite differently. Seriousness is like completely locks us in, and then in high performance we need to have opening up that capacity, and usually the fear but we pose to others or ourselves to perform at the highest, it's usually we perform because of deficiency, of this despair. Like, if I'm not gonna do this, I'm not gonna get paid, I'm gonna get fired, and I'm gonna fail, and I never ever will be able to succeed. So it's completely desperation. But if we say, okay, I will try, with curiosity, with interest, with the joy of whatever happens, and I know I will be able to survive, it's complete. You already operating from abundance mindset and energy. So if the failure happens, you can correct it way much faster and easier than if teeny tiny failure happens when you're in desperation, you're completely giving up on the situation, instead of like, oh my god, I just messed up, ha ha ha. Okay, what differently can I make here, or what I need to do next, and then concentrate, okay, what do I need to do next, what would be my approach in preparation, and then relaxing into that balance of the stress, how to show up to that point. And exactly the same we do in leadership. How do you enter the meeting? How do you develop your team? How do you solve important problems and make the decisions? How do you set yourself up? What attitude would bring the best results? And
Right.
usually the answer, sorry for interrupting, usually the answer is like that connecting energy what they need, and connecting is usually also through the smile, through the encouragement, through the recognition.
You have a choice. You could go in with great energy. You could go in with not great energy, or not a growth mindset, right? Now, everybody has stress. And this goes back to the core of what you do, which is coach people to understand the value of that positivity, not Pollyannic positivity, fake, right? But authentic and true and kind works. It works, Inga.
And you have that energy when you talk with me or with the guest. What I saw others like so engaging, because your curiosity, your interest, your um, attitude really invites in the conversation and openness. So this is why I also love talking to you.
Thank you, Inga. No, thank you so much. Inga, let's go. All-star moments. Here we go. Are you ready?
Let's go. I don't know for what, but I'm ready. Let's go.
We're going to give you all the questions. Here we go. How do you deal with adversity, Inga?
With the smile and curiosity.
2, how do you give yourself fuel?
Sleep and comedy.
3, never give up, Inga. What does it mean to you?
Sometimes to give up, it's okay. So knowing what we have an option.
4, the value of collaboration.
Oof. The key. The key. Co-creation, collaboration. I mean, we are nothing alone. Absolutely nothing.
You've hired people throughout your career. You've seen people hired in all the companies that you work with. What is the number one characteristic you could pass along to somebody in the job market right now to ensure that they would get hired from your vantage point?
I think so. It's just curiosity for depth. That it's what creates competitive edge for anybody going forward. So if there are know how to become mastery at something, it's becomes super valuable in any conversation. So also being proud and confident in what you already have certain knowledge in depth, it creates a lot of possibilities and opportunities. So finding the ways to really go a little bit deeper than others into the subjects, I feel like it's magic.
Okay, describe yourself as a leader in one sentence.
Facilitator, I even can say in one word. Usually I have the idea how everything should be, but and I present that idea. However, it's usually an inspiration point to start the conversation, and then my job is just to listen, because if I open that door to others, more heads and more minds, they will always create something better than I ever thought. So how my always question is, how can I facilitate environment where we all elevate each other?
And lastly here, what's the difference between a manager and a leader?
Leader really needs to understand the culture and then manage the culture and take responsibility for the culture, what is created. And the manager is somebody who facilitates how to create the results, how to manage the projects, the tools, but how everything is going with what kind of direction and attitude, that's already a leader's job.
All right. Inga, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and wisdom.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
And we thank Inga very much for being on the show. My number one takeaway is this, and you know where I'm going with this for those of you that listen all the time. Joy. That's my number one takeaway. Inga talked about the power of joy in leadership. And she has credibility. She's been working with senior leaders for the last 15 years. And she was coached at a high level in Lithuania and at USC. So she knows that if you're joyful, you smile, you take care of yourself, you find the pleasures in life, it will open you up to seeing the people that you lead in a different way and equal stakeholders and those that you report to. We talk about this all the time. Being angry or stressed out, now easier said than done, but that's the work that Inga does. She coaches people to understand the power and the advantages in business of being joyful. Inga was tremendous. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. We will see you next week on Keep the Line Moving. Have a great week, everybody. Every week, you hear guests on this podcast talk about some of their biggest leadership challenges. As a leader, you want to make an impact on those you lead and reach your organization's goals, while also optimizing your time management. Wherever you are in your leadership journey, we could all use some help. This is what we focus on with our group and individual coaching services. To book a call or get more information, email me directly at chrisg@garganoleadership.com or visit our website at garganoleadership.com. For our podcast and video producer, Jack Radutsky, and our marketing coordinator, Savin Narwal, have a great week, everybody.